Welcome to Living It with Chris Waddell. I am Chris Waddell. Today, I am with Joe Tompkins. Joe was my roommate back when we were on the ski team. He is a champion skier. He is a baseball coach, American Legion baseball coach. He's a guy in a wheelchair, so champion mono skier. He is a three-time state champion baseball coach, half Native American, lives in Juneau, Alaska, and apparently he has to dress himself with the clothes that people discard. For those of you who are not watching, Joe has a Yankees jersey on, Yankees sweatshirt, and I can only assume that he picked that up in the trash somewhere. So Joe, thank you for joining us. Hey, so
Yeah.
we were up in Juneau. We did a show with you. You took us out fishing. You took us out to the golf course. You took us to all of your hot spots in Juneau. You have traveled throughout the world.
Yes.
When you're skiing with the U.S. Disabled Ski Team or U.S. Adaptive Ski Team, you traveled all over. You've traveled all over on your own. You are back in Juneau, where you grew up. Why Juneau?
Because as you know, it's one of the most beautiful places in the world. The people up here they're amazing. You got Mother Nature. If you want to
What
be
makes the
alone,
people amazing?
well, it's a community of people that if something happens, the rest of them are there to help. If a person's in need, they're there to help. They're not a lot of fake people up here. They love the outdoors. They love people. They love hunting, fishing, and the beauty that we're surrounded by.
Juneau's pretty unique, right? Because one, you can't drive to Juneau. You can only fly or take a boat. So you can't drive. You literally reach the point that says end of the road, turn around, go back.
Yep.
It also is the only capital that borders a country too, right? You guys border Canada.
Yes.
And so and it's one of the largest cities in the US as far as square acreage is concerned or square miles are concerned.
Yeah. It's like second or third largest, I think,
Right,
per
exactly.
capita.
So it's huge, but you guys are still fairly isolated, right? Because you can't drive somewhere else. You stay within this community. And is it a lot of people that you grew up with who continue to be natives to Juneau?
About half my friends, some went out and stayed out, and they keep coming back during summers. But yeah, it's the harsh weather. You have to acclimate to yourself to what you can handle. I mean, because of the lightness and the darkness during the darkness in the winter, of course, and then the summer, the light,
So
and you have
what's
to adapt.
how many hours of daylight do you have during the winter time?
I'd say 6, maybe 7.
6 or 7 hours of daylight. And so corresponding on the summertime where you have 6 or 7 hours of dark.
I would say 4 or 5 hours of dark.
Really? So
Yeah,
it's just light all the time. And
yeah,
we're approaching the longest day of the year. So is that a day of celebration in Juneau?
absolutely. Even the shortest day is a celebration in Juneau.
It is. Yeah. So you guys were celebrating my accident. My accident happened on the shortest day of the year.
Oh, it did.
December 20th, yeah, of 88, which I think is the shortest day. I mean, it goes back and forth, right, between the 20th, the 21st kind of thing. Which one is actually the shortest day of the year? So you coach baseball, and
Correct.
a lot of the kids that you coach will leave Juneau, will leave this comfortable, insular, supported place to go elsewhere. What are you teaching them? How are you preparing them for when they go to the lower 48?
Well, the biggest thing I tell them that right now they are a big fish in a small pond, and then it's going to totally reverse once they get down there, and they're just a number. They're a number to a coach, but if they do what they're taught, they will excel. As you can remember, like when I first went down to your camp with a rusty ski, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I never had a coach. I had never had anybody. But so I tell them what to expect and what college coaches I think expect. And every time I meet a college coach, I ask them questions about hey, I coach high school age kids. I coach high school and American Legion. I want to see what you're looking for. And I pretty much know in my brain what the college coaches are looking for. You can't have body language. You can't have throwing the bat or getting mad at yourself. You can't show that emotion. You can't show that at all. And I teach kids that. Um, and the biggest one, as is hustle and paying attention and attention to detail, and just all the stuff that I wish I was taught in early on, like my skiing and my baseball, and what I could have done.
Exactly. You're a coach now. What would you have taught yourself? How would you have coached yourself?
The same way I coach the kids now. I mean, they're all different, but like for me, the ones that I reach out and I think I really connect with are the ones that were like me or are like me, that have a lot of talent, and they just don't know it yet. Like I knew I was good, I just didn't know how good I was or how good I could have been, because I was never told that. And to me, I had this facade where I was overconfident and stuff, where I never had a coach tell me what to do. I always said, "Hey, I'll pitch, or I'll play center field today. Just bat me 4." Where the coach didn't tell me, I just told him what I wanted.
So you needed somebody to smack you upside the head.
Pretty much, in the short of it, yes.
Did you get that when you were skiing at all?
Yeah, I had some little guy from the East Coast tell me that once in a while, harass me, wake me up when I was snoring. Yeah, I got that from you. I actually got that. The first person I got that from was Paul DeBello. Rest in peace, Paul DeBello. We lost him. But I got that from him. I called him up and I said, I'm interested in ski racing. And he said, well, get the F down here. We'll show you what to do. And I'm like, wow, that's what I need. Because I never had that for baseball. And then I went to yours and Sarah's camp. And, you guys lit a fire in there you never knew was in there. You said, like, you're going to have to get serious about this and pay attention and stuff, where I was always clowning. But I think I knew you guys knew that I could do it. It's just whether I wanted to and whether I had to drive. So you helped inspire that fuel.
Can you describe just quickly who Paul DeBello is?
Paul DeBello is a man that became disabled after I think glacier hiking or mountain climbing. Yeah. He started a disabled ski program in Winter Park, Colorado.
Yeah, and lost both of his legs to frostbite, gangrene, and so
fingers,
part of his nose, and
fingers, part of his nose, yeah. And he's a wonderful guy who had a drive to help out other disabled athletes. He really wanted equality for his athletes, all of them. He's like, these are not, well, as I don't know, because it wasn't politically correct, but he said they're not Special Olympians. They're Paralympians. They're athletes. They just do it a different way, and we don't want a pat on the back. We're racing. We don't want a hug. We're racing. We're fighting. We're competitors. He lit the fuel in a lot of people's heart, and and his roughness kept me around and pushed me, and I needed that, and I respect him for it. And we didn't always get along, and we always didn't see eye to eye, but his drive and his view for people like us and people disabled, one leg, one arm, whatever, he wanted the best out of them, and he wanted them to become athletes and be seen in the world as another human being that just did what they did, and they weren't special. They just skied or they raced because that's what they wanted to do.
How does that feel for you? Is that part of what you're trying to do as well? I mean, probably for yourself, I'd imagine, but how do you approach that? Changing the perceptions of people or getting them to see you?
To me, if they see the disability, to me, that's their loss. because I don't see a disability. I just see that you and I and other people are doing it a different way. We adapt and we move on. I mean, it, like you used to say, is like, for us to go through the airport or us to drive would take somebody else maybe an hour. It takes us 3 hours because we got to pack other stuff and do stuff, and we're a little bit slower, but we get it done. We move stuff and just not as fast as an able body would. But we're not asking for sympathy or anything like that. We're just, for us, it's something that it's our life, and that's what we do. For me, I don't care. When I golf, you and I golf, when I coach, if you see a wheelchair instead of a human being that has a heart and a beating heart and a blood, then that's your problem.
I would say that you were probably one of your biggest jobs is that of being a protector. Is that something that you would say about yourself?
That's definitely a fair assessment. I always feel like a protector. Yeah, something I've always done.
What does that mean? What does it mean to be a protector? Who are you protecting, and where did it come from?
Most of the time, probably protecting my friends and family, but sometimes you'll see, like, because you called me out, you don't catch yourself because you're protecting your heart, yourself. But yeah, it's mainly friends and family.
Mainly friends and family. And why? Why do you find that you are in that position of being the protector? I mean, I'd imagine you're doing it for your kids, your players and things like that too, right?
Yeah. Well, those are eventually friends and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. You just want to protect. I don't know where I get that from.
Who was your protector? Did you have a protector?
My dad was my biggest protector, but then my older sisters were, and then they would all protect me because I was like the baby, and then because my brothers would like to kick my butt,
And did.
and did for a while, not too long. Yeah, and my mom's a big protector. She's probably the most wonderful person in the world. She's a nurse, so she's protecting and taking care of people, and I think probably that's something I learned from her.
Yeah, I'd imagine that you have a little bit of the contrast as well between your father who was your biggest protector, but also was the one who would push you the most, right? Who would say, "Hey, if you look at a third call, if you get a called third strike, don't come home tonight," you know?
Yeah, yeah, pretty much.
And so is that some of what you're teaching your kids? Is that some of the preparation in working with your athletes? Because I mean, there's technical stuff that you can teach them, and
Yeah,
which is helpful. But so much of in baseball, it comes down to a moment here and there, right? I mean, you're hanging out for the vast majority of your time playing baseball.
right.
And then every once in a while you get that moment where it's like, okay, are you on it? Are you fully on it? Are you prepared to do your job right now? Is that what you find is your role in working with these athletes?
I think it's just preparing them and showing them a lot of it is you figure out that you're not just coaching, as you're not coaching just for the skiing or the baseball. You're pretty much life coaching for the ones that want to connect with you. These kids here will never look at a guy in a wheelchair the same because, oh well, Coach Joe, he can kick our butt in golf. He can get up in the batter, and I can't strike him out. Where they start coming back at 18, 19 years old, and they're happier than snot when they strike me out, And before, where they couldn't, I just tell them, hey, I'm getting older. You guys are getting older and stronger. That's all it is. But
You're
yeah,
on the way down. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I'm on that hill and I'm going down now. But you prepare them. You show them more than you think you do because you're not paying attention to that, and then they come back. Like I said, I had one kid that you met. I think Casey Watts and Zeb. Both those guys came back after playing college ball, and we've golfed this summer. I haven't golfed for like 7 years. Besides when you came, I golfed once, twice, probably about 7 times in 7 years. Because we're getting older and a little beat up. And you saw the golf course, right?
I
So,
did.
So they call and they say, hey, you want to go golfing? Of course I want to go golfing. You can't say no to your athletes, right? Or they call you and say, hey, you want to go to dinner? That's the biggest thank you, because they know you don't get paid for doing it.
Hold on, hold on. I wanna ask a question about that because I know it's a high compliment to receive these phone calls from your former players who want to go out and go golfing with you. Do you take their money?
No, Casey took $25 off me 2 days ago. But would I take it? Yes, I would.
Yes, you would. And you'd tell them about it each time you saw them too, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but right now Casey's got the upper hand. Zeb's learning, so he doesn't mind being coached by me in golf.
Were you a better athlete or are you a better coach?
Well, I was one hell of an athlete. I don't know that I'm a good coach. I love to coach, but I don't know that I'm a good coach.
Oh, well, I mean, let's put this in context, right? So you were an athlete growing up. Baseball was really your primary sport. Baseball, basketball would be a second to it. And then you had your accident, and then
Right.
then you came back and you're a monoskier. And one year you won the downhill globe. You were the best downhiller, best monoskiing downhiller in the world.
Could you
So
repeat that?
you were the best. I mean, I had already retired at that point, so open the door for you. But no, you were the best in the world at that one event for that year.
I don't know. I poured my heart into coaching. I never poured my heart into being an athlete. It was just a natural thing.
Do you look back on that at all and wish that you had done things differently? And does that inform how you coach now too?
Or definitely changed how I coach now. No, I love what I did. I love doing it. I don't think I would have changed it, because I never really wanted to be like number one in the world. It wasn't my thing. I just want, for me, I use this as a tool so I can go talk to kids about drugs and alcohol and stuff, because if I didn't go do anything after my accident, my words, I don't think would mean anything besides being the guy that was in the wheelchair.
So let's back up a little bit because you're talking about alcohol and drug education for kids, that it's one of the things that's really near and dear to your heart. I would imagine that it's near and dear to your heart, partially because you ended up in a wheelchair as a result of a drunk driving accident. What can you tell me what happened and how that might have changed you moving forward?
Well, we were a bunch of teenagers. We got in the car, and two of my great buddies got in the car with a drunk driver. Of course, when you're drunk, you don't ask the guy if he's drunk. So he went out, got in the car. We were going from party to party, and we went off the road and hit a tree, and I became disabled. I lost my best friend in a car accident, and my next best friend went in a coma. He's out now. He's a comedian. He's good. For 2 years, I'm going to tell you a story just because I know
Please.
you want to ask anyways. 1 month before the accident, my son was born, Donald. And then the accident happened. Well, he was born December 17th. The accident happened January 23rd. So pretty much a month. And so for 1 month, I was the happiest guy in the world. And then 1 month later, I became the most miserable person in the world. Changed my life because I was an athlete that could have went somewhere. And you ask why I coached, because I never have a coach that pushed me or told you had the right tools. That's one of the reasons why I coach.
And helped you develop. So you're talking about the 2 years afterwards that you were miserable. What does that mean? What did miserable look like?
Miserable look like, well, there's people that want to commit suicide and not live, and then there's people that don't want to live. I was one of those people that just didn't want to live. So I didn't care whether I died or lived at that point. So for 2 years, I got into drugs and alcohol, more drugs than I ever did before the accident, and I had a lot more drinking than I ever did before the accident.
And to the point where Juneau's a small town, right? I mean, it's a small town where everybody knows each other, and what the police had a lottery based on when you might die, didn't they? I mean, is that just a joke that you've said, or
Yeah, they had a pot going. They won't. A lot of them won't admit it now, but they had a bet going that I wouldn't. if Joe Tompkins wouldn't live past 21, because I was 19 when my accident happened.
So you were 19 and that you wouldn't live for those 2 years.
Right. I wouldn't live to be past 21 because of what I was doing, my actions. I mean, actions speak louder than words. I was miserable.
Were you miserable
So
to other people as well?
only when I was drunk. When I was sober, I was fine. But I was an asshole when I was drunk, because the real feelings of me faking that everything was okay when I was sober went away when I drank. And I was mad. I was mad at the world. I was mad at everybody except for me for getting in that car.
Right.
I
So
was mad at the
it
police.
was all their fault. It
It
wasn't
was
your
their
fault.
fault. It was all my teacher's fault, all the police department's fault. It was all,
The driver, I would imagine.
I never got mad at the driver.
Interesting. Okay. But you got mad at your parents.
Oh, yeah, I got mad at my parents, the police, teachers. I didn't take responsibility. So, and that's what actually helped me get out of it, was taking responsibility for myself.
How did that happen? Because it's hard to get out of these things, right? I mean, once you're in the situation, it's hard to get out of it.
You don't know you're in it, really. You didn't, like, I knew that I didn't care whether I lived or die. So if I overdosed, that's another touching story. Or if I drank myself and got hit by a car, I wouldn't care. I got in trouble with the law in around New Year's or something like that. And then people were telling me, "Hey, you got a problem with drugs or alcohol?" I said, "No, I don't have a problem with it. I love to do it, and I don't care. I can stop anytime." Well, no one believed that at all, at all. I mean, from judges to police to friends, they never believed that.
Never believed that you could stop whenever you wanted to.
Right. I went to jail, I think on New Year's or around New Year's or whatever. No, it was before, because I was loud and obnoxious out at a party or whatever. So it wasn't anything bad.
You do that now sober. What are you talking about?
I know. Remember, we get cut off. So that night that I went to jail, my son didn't know why I didn't come home before he went to bed.
So you were living with your girlfriend and your son.
Right. And at about 2 years old, he came out running, and he's just like, "Daddy, Daddy." And I was hungover, and of course, woke up, and I turned to him and I said, "What?" And my facial expressions and my tone to a 2-year-old,
Yeah.
you make a little difference. And he just started tearing up and started walking away. I said, "No, wait, come here. What is it?" And he just said, "I just wanted to say I love you." And it made me cry, but I couldn't cry in front of him. And I gave him a hug and I said, "I love you too." And something clicked right there that said, "You're showing this kid how not to live instead of how to live." And from then on, probably 4 or 5 days later, I said, "You know what? I totally give it up." So I probably went out and drank probably about another 3 or 4 times. Never did any hard drugs or anything after that. But January 6th, like 30 years ago, I gave up drugs and alcohol. I decided that I'm going to show him how to live, that, whatever happened to me, I'm going to be the best dad that I can. So I picked that up and then just started slowly. Okay, I'm doing it for my son. Why can't I do it for my nieces and my nephews? So I tried to help them and explain to them, because I have a lot of them grown up, and I wanted to be a good example. I wanted to show them how to do it.
And did you do it on your own? Did you have to go to rehab? Do you look back on it and say that you were addicted to drugs and alcohol, or were you addicted to the risk, or what were you, what's the story you tell yourself now?
I was in a depression. I was in a funk, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, I could have been addicted, but I don't think I was, because no, I didn't go to AA. I always tell people I did the 13-step program, because I guess AA is a 12-step
program. Right.
Yeah. I said, I do the 13-step. And they go, "What do you mean?" I go, "Well, I just jumped all the 12 steps and just did 13 and I quit forever." I go, "What the hell do you mean?" I'm like, "I just decided I'm not going to do it. And I have to be a father to this young man, this little boy." I mean, like I said, I was the happiest man in the world for 1 month.
Right. Have you had any risk of going back? Have you had the temptation, or?
When I had a breakup of a longtime girlfriend or something, I went and bought a beer and sat at the bar and had it right in front of me.
You never drank it. You just sat it in front of you.
Nope.
Was that testing yourself, or was that what?
It was seeing if I was going to do it, if it was worth it, And I'm going to definitely testing myself. Like, okay, are you going to be a little bitch and drink it, or are you going to man up and say no? Well, I decided to turn around and go play pool, and I decided no.
You don't have a lot of sympathy for people who are who become addicted to drugs and alcohol. So, I don't know, I remember seeing a post where you said something about, am I right in saying that? Am I right in asking about that? Or
No, you are correct. I don't have sympathy. I have empathy, I think. Because when we drink or we do drugs, we do it for selfish reasons, correct?
I guess so. I haven't thought about it in that context. So what do you mean by doing it for selfish reasons? We're doing it just to please ourselves.
Right. If I went out to drink, I wouldn't be pleasing anybody but my soul, my heart, my feeling. Or we self-medicate. We try and get rid of that feeling. That's why I went to the bars, because I'm like, okay, maybe this beer will help me feel better for that one time when I have my heart broken. And then that would feel good for that little time. Okay, but what about when you wake up sober, not on drugs, not on alcohol, and that feeling comes back? Well, you just snowballing the problem.
So the problem's getting bigger and bigger. And is it that you're avoiding responsibility, or what's the issue that you have?
For me, it was I was avoiding responsibility. For me, it was using alcohol and drugs as a crutch or as an excuse.
And were you using drugs and alcohol as the crutch or an excuse, or were you using your accident as the crutch and excuse?
No, I was using alcohol. Like I was using the alcohol and the drugs to. I didn't want to commit suicide, but I didn't want to live.
Right. And you didn't want to live because of what had happened to you with your accident, right?
Yeah, because at that time I feel like it was taken away. And then when I looked at myself in the mirror after talking to my son Donald when he was 2 years old and almost breaking the kid's heart for just by my gruff voice in the morning and tone that I gave him, I had to look at himself in the mirror and say, you know what? You're the one that did all this. You did it. You didn't drive the car, but you got in the car. Would you have been there if you weren't drinking and partying with your friends? No, because you wouldn't have been in that situation if you've been sober enough to say, "Hey, get out of the driver's seat. I'm going to drive."
But meanwhile, you weren't sober enough to get anybody out of the driver's seat.
No, even if I was drunk enough, I could do it. But I just didn't care. I just wanted to go to the next party.
How did you take responsibility? What did it look like? I mean, we heard the story about Donald at 2 years old, but then what did you do? What did you do moving forward? What did that look like?
It was owning up to it. And like when I talked to the kids, I didn't say it was the biggest word thing is changing your words to my baseball career was taken away from me to I gave my baseball career away. I gave it away by drinking. I gave it away by getting in the car with a drunk driver. And those are the biggest things. The words, just the changing those little words, make you accept responsibility. When someone says, "Oh, you poor thing," you got in an accident. It's like, no, I'm not a poor thing. I did it. I have to live with it. It's something I live with every day. I'm the one. I'm the little idiot teenager that got in the car with a drunk driver. So it's me, and there's no poor me. The poor me is my mom that doesn't deserve seeing her son go through that. That's the poor me. But having a mother that I had, she never had the poor me attitude. She's like, just, you know what? She cinched up her coat, said, okay, what do we have to do to get through this? And as you met my mom, you're like, how could this kid be yours? How could those kids be yours? You know?
She's this angel. Yeah.
Yes, she is. She really is.
How did you get healthy? Because the alcoholism in a lot of ways was a representation of you being unhealthy, of the desire to kill yourself, or not to live, not necessarily to kill yourself, but not to live. What were the steps? How did you go from that place to to living your life fully, to being happy with who you were and where you were going?
Well, the first day that I quit, I went down to the bar because everybody's like, oh, you got to stay away from this, this, and this. I'm like, no, I don't. I'm going down to the bar to shoot pool with my friend. And then when I shoot pool, as you know, like you always want to be the best. You don't want to be the best you want to be the best person, not sitting down, not standing up. You want to be the best.
No qualifiers, just the best. Okay.
Right. So if I wanted to be the best pool player, I took that in, and then like all my friends were like, "Hey, here's a drink." And then when I said no over and over, I guarantee you, it was 1,000 times in the first 4 or 5 months.
Because you'd go to the bar every night.
I'd go shoot pool every night, yeah, because I wanted to be the best. So I'd practice and practice, practice. And then all my friends and other people that met me, like, here's a drink. I'm like, no, I'm not drinking. I'm just here to shoot pool. And they go, "Did you quit?" I said, "No, I just don't drink anymore."
So you said that right from the beginning that you don't drink anymore. It's not that you quit. It's not that you stop drinking. It's not that you're not having a drink. It's that you don't drink anymore. It happened that distinctly.
Well, no, for the first week, I said I quit. But then my friends would say, "Oh, well, you can start up again."
Being helpful. Right.
Right. So if you quit, you can start up again. But if you say, "No, I don't drink anymore," you can't say, "Oh, you can start up again." You say, "I don't drink anymore."
Yeah.
And then after about 10 of those, they stop buying you drinks, and they see me throwing my alcohol over my shoulder. They stop buying you drinks like that. "You're wasting it." I'm like, "No, somebody else can't drink it."
You're wasting their money, but yeah, but
Exactly.
they wasted their money. So what else did you do? So you were going to the bar, you were shooting pool, but what else did you do in your life? I mean, you were what, 21 years old?
Yeah, I started coaching baseball again. Actually, not again, for the first time.
And like Little League, Legion, who were you coaching?
It was called Big League back then.
Big league. So what were the ages of the kids?
16 to 15 to 18.
Oh, really? Okay. So older kids. These are kids who are just barely younger than you, really.
Yes. But the other guy that I was coaching with came back from college and was coaching, and they needed coaches. So we just started coaching.
And did you feel like that was something that you were always supposed to do?
I don't know. I just loved it. I loved coaching. I loved teaching them, where they would hit a fly ball. Some of them have a hard time. I'm like, I could have caught that. And then one of them goes, "Oh, yeah, show us." And then you get out there with the wheelchair and catch a fly ball. They're like, "Oh, he's right." Because that in my mind, that's still like, "Yeah, I can hit that. Yes, I can do that." And then for them to see it, you open some eyes.
So you had to prove a bit of your credibility though, too. You had to prove that you were worth listening to.
Oh, absolutely. Because all they would do is hear like stories that I would have to tell them. And then you tell them or have some other coach go, "Yeah, he did that."
One of your big questions was that you relied more on talent than you did on your work. So some of that's just God given, right? You were born to do this. And oftentimes those people have a difficult time communicating what they're trying to, for somebody else, teaching somebody else. Well, just hit the ball. Like, don't give me a hard time about this stuff. Like, no, it just you see the ball, you hit the ball, call it good. Why do you feel like you were able to communicate with them, or why do you feel like you wanted to try to communicate with them?
That's a great question. Because I know the game, or I think I know the game, and a lot of little league coaches now are just, I mean, they're all volunteers, but a lot of them are parents, and then you see their kid in the pitching role or the catching role or the shortstop, where they shouldn't be. Where little Johnny out in right field should be the shortstop. You just see stuff like that, and you're like, "Okay, I'm going to coach because I'm going to coach against these fathers that are coaching their kid, and then these other 11 kids just happen to be on the team."
How did it progress? So did you coach all the way along from 21 on, or
No, I did it for like 2 years, and then I got into just fishing a lot, and then I think I was 26 or 27 because I was playing wheelchair basketball, like just open gyms with guys. And one guy goes, "Why don't you try skiing?" I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Skiing?" He goes, "No, really. We'll put you on this little sled and you go down." And I guess it's called a Aurora sled or something.
the Arroyo sled? Yeah. Oh, so you started back then, which was really like a sled where then you had ice picks in your hand, and that's how
Yeah.
you directed yourself, sort of digging the ice pick in turn right and then turn left. And
I would love to ride that now, but yeah, that's what I started with
really, when was that? Do you remember?
27 years ago.
93, and your accident was in 88. Okay, so 5 years. So you started doing that, and did you fall in love with it? Did you think it was something that you wanted to do? Because it would make far more sense for you to go back into basketball, albeit
Right.
wheelchair basketball, than it would be for you to go into skiing, because you were a basketball player, you knew the game, you loved the game. I mean, you were one of
That's
those
what
guys
people
who,
would think, right?
that's what I would think. Yes, exactly. It would make sense.
No, because you can't dunk, you can't get in there, and you can't, to me, you can't play the real basketball. You're in a wheelchair. So in your mind, you're like, in my mind anyway, you're like, no, I'm not, you can't play basketball. You can't dunk, you can't rebound like that. So it never even crossed my mind.
I mean, as a pickup, you were fine with it.
Pickup, it was fun to shoot around.
Well, maybe describe that a little bit, because there is a part of it, right? That if you've done a sport, that it might not be the same. I mean, I was a ski racer, and for me to
Right.
come back to skiing, that was one of my biggest worries, is that it wouldn't be the same as I had done it before. And so it sounds like that was the issue for you with basketball, but with skiing, you had skied a little bit just recreationally.
Like 3 times.
You didn't know what you were doing. Yeah.
You could say that now.
Oh no, I would have
Yeah.
said that then too.
Right. Oh, you definitely would have. You would have. You would have been laughing at me from the lift.
I would have been trying to stay out of your way as best I could, really, is what it comes down to. You sound like you would have been dangerous out there. So you got into skiing, and so you went from the Arroyo sled, and then did you move up to, I'm trying to think of the name of that, the monoski that you first were on.
Wasn't that a unique?
Ah, yeah, the unique, exactly. Yep.
Okay, so here's the story. I did that for on the Aurora sled for 2 seasons, and it wasn't like I did it like 3 times a year.
And this is right in Juneau that you were doing it.
Right. So I did that for 2 seasons. And the next season, a bi ski went by me, and of course, these people in Juneau didn't know everything that everybody knew about disabled skiing.
Well, it was
Right.
pretty brand new then too, really. I mean, it was like the monoski really was kind of around from like, 86, 80, 88 kind of thing.
Yeah, see, I didn't know that, but they didn't know from the Aurora side. But anyways, the bi-ski came by and guy goes, "Hey, you want to try that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that looks more fun than this sled thing." So I got in that, and of course, big old Joe, 200 pounds back then.
So you got into the bi-ski, and what's your first objective? I have an idea of what I think your first objective is. What was your objective?
Hit a jump.
Okay, okay, okay. I thought you were just going to go fast, but hitting a jump makes sense too.
Go fast and hit a jump. So I did that. I hit a jump. First jump I hit, broke a ski.
So they kicked you out of it.
They kicked me out of it. And then I think this is exactly what happened. When I broke it, some guy, no, they fixed it and I was back on it the next year. And some guy comes by, his name's Scott McPherson, came by with a monoski, and he was so fast. And some guy goes, "That's what we're going to go to next." And I was scared. I was literally scared out of my life. I'm like, "No way." He goes, "That is way too fast." And the guy goes, "That's what we'll go on next, because you're too heavy for this bi-ski. And if you want to ski again, this is what you have to do."
You said that it was too fast, or he said that it was too fast?
I did.
You did?
Yeah.
Really? What was wrong with you?
I was freaked out, man. That was fast from what I was doing.
That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
I just know you as a bit of a speed freak, so that's surprising to me.
Well, that's when it all hit. When I got on the monoski and we were doing the bunny hill, I'm like, we don't need this bunny hill. We need to go up there. After that, the first day was over.
After you kind of figured it out and that kind of thing a little bit?
No, it was like four runs. I said, "Let's go up there." Like, "Nope, we're going to do this. And then at lunch, we'll talk about it." Because, of course, they knew more than I did at that time. And I get up there, and because we get on the lift, and I'm scared out of my mind, just being that tippy unique going over. And
you sit about 6 inches off the lift too. So you're Yeah, you're not in the most stable position in a monoski on the chairlift.
No, you're
Not the
not at
most
all.
comfortable thing. Right. Okay.
No, it's actually probably one of the most uncomfortable things ever.
Right. I'm always holding on. Yes.
Yeah, I know. I've seen you. You've
I don't want to fall out. Well, okay, so keep going. Keep going. What happened?
okay. So you're tethered the first few days or whatever. Tethered means they stick a rope on you, a tether, and they hold you up from going too fast, or they help you turn. They help you. Um, they just mainly stop you from going straight down the hill, pretty
Right.
much.
And keep you from falling over to a certain extent as well.
Well, yeah, they didn't do that. And so after beating myself up on the first 3 or 4 days, because when they helped try and turn, they actually dropped me, like, pushed me over the ground. I said, you have to take this tether off. You're doing no good. They're like, we can't. I'm like, yeah, you can. So I talked them into it. And boy, did I scare the shit out of myself going downhill. But I loved it and I fell in love with it. And that is right there. That when the wind is actually in your face and nobody's helping you, I really felt so alive. I literally felt I was doing something that everybody else does, but I'm doing it by myself. I didn't have a tether. I didn't have anything. So the way I explain this is to everybody is when you see an American bald eagle soaring up in the air and he's all by himself and it's just him in the wind, that's exactly how I feel every time I ski.
Really? And was that the first time you felt like that since your accident?
Yeah.
So you were back in some ways.
In all the ways I could. My spirit was happy. My mind was happy. My body was sore as all get out, but I was happy.
So
Yeah.
you had to ski. You didn't have a choice.
No.
And is that when you decided that you wanted to become a ski racer? And did you have the thought of going to the Paralympics then, or
No.
how did that part work?
Nope. And then I probably skied another 2 times up there because it was hard to get me in the ski, and they didn't have a lot of the volunteers there that you can go every day. And in Juneau, it's only open like 5 days a week anyways, the ski
Okay.
area.
Right. Okay.
And I went up there. So I probably went another 5 times that season. And then the next season I went up there probably about 5 times, and some guy goes, hey, there's this thing called Ski Spectacular down in Colorado. They'll teach you how to ski and stuff. Do you want to go down there? No. And they go, we'll pay for it. Okay, twist my arm, right? I'm like, okay, if you're really going to pay for it, I'm going to go down there. So I went down to ski back on, it's like the third or fourth week in December, isn't it? Or no, first week in December. First and second.
I think it's the end of the first week. Yeah.
So I went down and I flew into Stapleton. And the first thing I run into is some guy on the US ski team. How do I know? Because he had this jacket, this US ski team jacket with all these things on. I said, hey, what are you doing? And I'm seriously like a kid in a candy store. Started talking to him. He was a really nice guy. He goes, well, I'm going up to ski spec because we're going to do a race and we might do coaching or whatever. I'm like, wow, good, because I'm going to that same thing. He goes, really? He goes, yeah. I mean, sure, he knew I was, but I didn't know that I was, going up to the same thing.
Do you know who it
And
was? Do you remember?
if you said his name, I mean, we won't say it on this, but we will later. Yeah, because he's a big part of the story.
Okay. Okay.
So I went up there and started to learn how to ski and stuff, and got a lot of techniques and got better. And then, of course, when people come over and go, do you want to do the learn the race program with the US ski team? I'm like, hell yeah. Because I saw them all. It's like all you guys that were up there had your gear on and stuff.
You had your jackets, your team uniforms. Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't know because I'm from Juneau, Alaska. We never knew that stuff. And your guys' Paralympics weren't on TV and stuff like they are now. Otherwise we would have known. Or we didn't have Facebook and stuff back then, or we would have known. I went up there and I learned the race and I was going to do the race. So I went up there. Everybody does the pre-race and stuff. All you guys racers doing, you know what? You don't want to be bugged or whatever.
The inspection. So you're looking at looking at the course and all that stuff, you mean? Okay.
Yeah. So I went up and talked to that same guy and asked him a question, and he gave me the cold shoulder and ignored me. I do the race, I finished the race, and I didn't come in last. I was like, how do I not come in last? So I was pretty shocked at that. And then that same guy was down at the bar playing pool after the skiing and all that. I went in there and I'm like, I'm going to show this prick to never treat anybody like that again, right? And I went in there and he broke them and made like one and then missed. And I ran the table on him. And by running the table, that means you made all your balls, kicked his ass. So I did that and I said, next. And he turned around and looked at me like, you little punk. And I'm like, yep, next again. And a couple of his ski techs, I can't remember their name right now, but any ski techs, big guys that were helping, that were always there. Carl.
Carl DeRocher. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. They were laughing because he got his ass kicked. And I was like, yeah. And then, so I went and talked to him the next day or whatever when we were doing a fundraising. He's like, he was a jerk to me for some reason. Probably because I did that in front of all his friends. But he was a jerk before up at a ski, which I didn't know that you don't want to be bugged when it was a giant slalom. It's not like you needed that much prep. It was a freaking giant slalom. On a downhill or a super G, give me a break. Anyway, so he ignored me and I'm like, all right, I'm going to race. And I got back and I'm like, you know what? When I get on the U.S. ski team, I will never, ever, ever treat anybody like that. And that set my goal. And I called DeBello from Winter Park and I said, hey, I met you in Winter Park, whatever, and I want to learn to race again. And that's when he said, well, get the F down here if you want to learn to race then. And so I think that was that year I went to yours and Sarah's ski camp. Well, because that's what made me want it. And I don't know if I was in Winter Park and heard about your program. Anyways, those two are running together. I'd have to look back what I wrote in my notes. But I went back. No, I think I went to your camp. I got invited to your camp after. Got teased like hell because I had a rusty ski. I didn't know what the hell I had. And
I don't think it was just the rusty ski. But yes.
Yeah, but I decided I wanted to. For some reason, I figured out that it would be a good platform for me to help kids stay away from drugs and alcohol. Otherwise, I was just some average Joe that became in a wheelchair.
Well, it's interesting. So Sarah, Will, and I started a monoski camp. So that's she and I. She was the fastest woman in the world, and by '93, I had become the fastest man in the world, and we kind of decided that it was a hard thing, that it was hard to get to that point, and then a lot of people would have quit along the way. So we started this camp to basically make it easier for the next generation of people, the people following us, to get relatively good and to have an idea of what they were looking for and try to be able to coach themselves if they didn't have access to coaching. And that's when it ended up, when you showed up. And I remember in the middle of the camp, something happened or whatever, we have walkie talkies or whatever. And somebody needed me to go get something, or I had to go get something. And I said, okay, that's fine. And so I just turned around and just pointed it, said, all right, you guys are here. I'm just going to go. And so I just pointed it. And then I looked about halfway down the hill and I looked back and you were right on my tail. And I went, well, what's up with this guy? I don't think he's made a turn the whole time. And that might have been sort of that moment where I'm like, this guy might be pretty good at some point. He's got something going for him.
I was just following you. I didn't know we weren't supposed to.
Oh, I don't know if I believe that story. You're like, this is an opportunity. I see the opportunity part of it. Like I can open some eyes here. These guys might give me a hard time about my ski with rust on it and some of the other things or whatever. But yeah, and I looked at that, and so then you ended up making the U.S. team. You competed in how many Paralympics did you compete in?
Well, 3.5 if you count Sochi.
Well, that might be more like 3 1/6 or something like that. What happened in Sochi?
You tell me.
I didn't see it actually.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah, they wouldn't get me the footage. Day of training, I crashed in a downhill.
How were you doing going into that? So that was 2014. That wasn't the year that you won the overall downhill globe, was it?
No, 2010 was it?
Okay. So going into Vancouver.
Right. Just training. And this actually, I told my coach that I was scared, and he was like, those are just your nerves. You always get a little edgy up front.
And Sochi, that was a real course. I mean, you're talking about some gigantic steep sections. It was the same course. It was the Olympic course
Right.
that you guys were running, and there was big air and stuff like that too. So what ended up happening? So this is an actual downhill training run, and downhill training runs are effectively like a race. Everything is the same. It just doesn't count.
Well, that's the day I was going to show everybody that they had no chance in my mind. Because like you said, it was actually it was actually the closest to a downhill that one of the ones we've ever done. Because of the speed, I love the speed and I love the air. I get scared, but I love it. I think that it made me feel alive. So the first day of training, I had the Austrian guy or the head guy come out. He came out and was yelling at me how fast I got, that I was the fastest guy clocked. And I already made mistakes, and I was still one of the top guys. I don't know what it was, but he came out and he was telling me in kilometers. And of course, in my head, I couldn't switch it to miles per hour.
Do you remember how many kilometers how many kilometers an hour you were going?
Nope, I don't remember. But he came out and was like, he was excited at how fast I was clocked at doing.
Okay.
Because I made a mistake, and finally at the end, I just pointed.
Yeah, I think it was approaching the big air actually that I don't know. It's been a while. It's been 6 years since that race, but yeah, and it had to be over 100 kilometers an hour, which would be 62 miles an hour. But it was probably more than that too, maybe. So on the second day, what's your mindset? You want to show everybody else that there's no reason to show up.
I did. That's what I wanted to show them. I knew where I messed up, and I knew if I cleaned it up, I was going to beat everybody. They were going to say, "Wow!" But on that part where you come over and there's that first big pitch right before the dog leg left, that's where I messed up. And that peanut butter snow where they iced gave way when it shouldn't have given way, and
Right.
I freaked or overcorrected and ass over tea kettle.
And so you just tumbled and broke your leg, right? Is that what happened?
No,
Or
I broke my hip.
oh, you broke your hip. Okay.
Yeah.
That was it for Sochi, but that was effectively it for your career too, right?
Yeah. It was too expensive of a sport for me. All the surgeries.
Surgeries. That's probably true. So you came back to Juneau. How are you related at all to or invested at all in the Native American community in Juneau? So you're a Tlingit, right? Or
Right.
part Tlingit. Your father was full blood Tlingit, right?
No, my father was half.
Oh, your father was half. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I thought he was full. Okay. Are you connected at all with the Tlingit community, with the Native American community up there, and how
I'm
has
connected.
that?
I know them all, but
Okay.
I don't do enough. I mean, I try and help more of the natives get into baseball, where it's racially different up here than it is a lot of places. So they don't get out to baseball as much. They'll play basketball more than they will baseball.
Has it changed? Has the role or the position of the Native Americans has that changed since you were a kid? Is it different now than it was when you were a kid?
It's a little bit better, not as much as it should be. And things like this with us losing that African American
George Floyd,
police
yeah,
officer, George.
yeah,
Floyd.
yeah, George Floyd, yeah, in Minneapolis.
It wakens a lot of the memories and stuff.
Right. And so as a kid, you had said at one point that you denied that you were Native at all.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily deny it, but I didn't let everybody know because of the way he treated people. I mean, I had an athlete within the last 4 years ago was bashing on natives. And I said, "Do you know your coach is Native?" And he was taken back by that, and he was like, "Well," he goes, "Yeah, but you're not full." I said, but I'm native. And I happen to be one of your favorite coaches, but you're bashing these guys. So what does that mean for you?
And what did he say? What was he talking about?
Yeah, he didn't really know how to respond. I didn't push him on it. And I just had to go with it. And, we're still friends today, but I think he looks at it differently now.
Hopefully he does look at it different, because it's easy to look at a group of people. It's easy to look at a collective, right? And say, oh, well, this is a stereotype of a native. This is a stereotype of whatever, and not actually see the individual. So I think that some of what you did was you actually showed them the individual. Is that some of what you do with regard to being in a chair too?
I'm pretty sure you do it and you don't think about doing it most of the time, but yeah, you do.
Yeah, I mean, you want people to see you for who you are, don't you? And sometimes that can be a really big challenge.
That's a huge challenge in the way things are today.
How do you do that? How do you show people who you are?
I golf, I coach, I ski, I play pool. As you know, when you beat guys swinging one arm, standing up with everything, that hurts more than one of their buddies kicking their butt for $100. You know what I mean? It does. It's true. Well, they always have an excuse in pool. Like, well, you're lower down there. Well, you can come down here and get up there. So what's your excuse now? Just change the perception. And to me, it's like, you know what? If you see that, then you're pretty pea-brained, and there's nothing I can do for you until you man up.
Are you pretty good at seeing that in other people? At seeing beyond that first perception, of seeing beyond the stereotype?
I've got a lot better at it. I've gotten a lot better. I'm not going to judge until you prove me. I still give everybody the benefit of the doubt until you prove me wrong. And sometimes I even do it a second and third time. And my son says I can do it too much. It's like, you should cut a lot of these people off, but I can't do it. That's where I get from my mother. Her door is open to anybody that's in need. A lot of my friends call her Saint Betty.
Is she the center of the community?
She used to be. She's the center of our family and our community. Yeah. She is the backbone.
So, like, she does Sunday dinner every week, doesn't she? And the whole family, or whoever can make it, comes. And how many people are in your family? I mean, I went to a birthday party when we were there for the TV show, and it was like the whole beach was covered.
Yeah. Well, you got family and then family, so it makes it bigger. But yeah, I'd say 30 to 40 in Juneau.
And how many people show up for the Sunday dinner at Betty's, which I'm assuming, I have it written down to ask you what the best fish and chips is in Juneau. And I think I know the answer to it.
It was definitely my mom's.
It sounds like that's the right answer too. But how many people show up for the fish and chips?
Fish and chips, it depends. A lot more will show up. Depends on everybody's schedule, but sometimes it can only be like Donald and I. Sometimes it could be 5. Sometimes it could be 20, 25 on a Sunday. I lost my father, as you know. I don't know why he made me promise, because I was the youngest boy and the 5th child of 6 kids that mom would always be taken care of. And so Sunday dinners was something that my mom and dad started. Everybody can come back and eat Sunday dinner. And Donald and I just kept it going. I mean, everybody comes, and then some families start their own things, but every Sunday we show up. And, we started where my mom doesn't always have to cook. Last weekend my nephew cooked, and it was good.
So let's just finish here. What's next for you? Where are you going? What are you going to do?
Well, we have a knockoff of American Legion, and so I might coach baseball. My son wants me to become a fishing captain, whale watching captain. No, I'm going to continue coaching off and on. I coach baseball and basketball, so just when it runs its course, when something comes up that I want or I see that I want to do, then I'll change it. Yeah, and I still love working on cars.
That sounds like a plan. Well, Joe, thank you for joining us on Living It. It's always a pleasure to talk to you and find out what's going on. For those of you who have not visited Juneau, Alaska, you need to visit Juneau, Alaska. When should they visit, Joe?
Depends. If they want to ski, they can come in February or March. Really good. Helicopter skiing March, April, May usually is good for helicopter skiing. For sunshine, good luck there. You come here and
It
June,
is a
July.
rainforest, right? One of the largest
Right.
rainforests. And is it the largest rainforest in the world?
It is.
It is. Okay. Largest rainforest in the world, Juneau, Alaska.
Yeah.
So you're saying that they can come in the summertime, but it might rain on them.
Right. No, it will guarantee rain on 'em.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. It has been an absolute pleasure. It's always fun to talk to you and find out what you're up to. And good luck with the season. Good luck to the team.
Thank you for having me on, and thank you for everything you do, Christopher Waddell. I love you like a brother.
Love you like a brother too, Joe. Thanks, buddy.